Despite some history being made at Fenway Park on Monday, things are looking glimmer for the Red Sox playoff hopes as they got swept in their doubleheader against the Blue Jays.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part is it is completely free. So you might as well check it out because Locked On is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Welcome to today's show. And for those of you who are new and haven't tuned into the show before, I appreciate you taking yourself to this show today after the Red Sox are coming off of an incredibly rough day against the Blue Jays in which they lost 2 games of a doubleheader, not just one, but 2, against a Blue Jays team that has been seriously struggling this year. They were sellers at the trade deadline. They'll likely finish last in the division. And the Red Sox, who are a team that desperately needs to win games if they want to stay even remotely in playoff contention, goes in to the day looking just completely out of it and dropped both games. I'm going to be talking on today's show a little bit later about what exactly went wrong in these 2 games on Monday and the mountain that the Red Sox are going to have to climb to get themselves back into contention. I'm also going to be going over some roster reshuffling that they did move people around prior to the first game and the second game. So I'm going to be touching on what those moves were. And also just a piece of history that was made in Boston on Monday. So if you're new and haven't found yourself here before, you might be asking how I talk about this team every single day. Honestly, even if they are bad and they are not playing good baseball, I still am in love with the Boston Red Sox, and I will still catch myself watching every single game, all 162, even if it means they take years off my life. I'll just never stop, and that is what it is, and I'm sure you can relate, and that's why you're here as well. But definitely a rough couple of games for the Boston Red Sox, but there was history that was made in this game. Game 1, so Boston Red Sox catcher, Danny Jansen, he was traded to Boston at the trade deadline this season. The first game of the doubleheader yesterday was a game that had been suspended earlier in the season on June 26th due to rain. It was during the second inning with 1 out, and Danny Jansen was up to bat at the time for the Toronto Blue Jays. So it was just super ironic that it just happened to be his at bat when the game got suspended. Then the Red Sox traded for him. So obviously when you go into a game like they did yesterday, he is playing for the Red Sox. He's not going to be playing for the Blue Jays at that point to finish the game. So he ended up being in the Red Sox lineup. And what was really interesting about all of it was that he became the first player in history to play for both teams in the same game, because technically, obviously, it was the same game that took place over 2 different days. But the interesting thing about that was because since he was in a Red Sox uniform now, he couldn't go back to playing with the Blue Jays. So he was in the Red Sox lineup for that game as the catcher. And he was technically replacing Reese McGuire in that spot, who had been catching the game when it started back in June before it got suspended. So he took over Danny Jansen's spot and caught the at-bat for the player in Dalton Varsho, who went into the game for the Blue Jays as a pinch hitter for Jansen. So definitely got a little bit confusing, but Jansen said it was cool to be a part of history and cool to be the guy who was the first player ever in Major League Baseball to play for both teams in the same game. And it was interesting because earlier on in the game, neither team was recording a hit. And then Dalton Varsho finally was the one that broke up the no-hitter and got the first hit of the game for Toronto. And then in the next half inning, Danny Jansen broke up the Blue Jays no-hitter and recorded a hit. So it was almost like it was scripted and it was meant to be that those two would be the guys who made history and also broke the no-hitters for the team that they were facing. So definitely an interesting game for sure from a history standpoint, and lots of players who were wondering how that was exactly going to work when it came to the Danny Jansen situation, but he enjoyed it. He said he enjoyed playing in Toronto, but he also enjoys playing in Boston. So he is appreciative of the fact that he had the opportunity to play with both clubs. And it was a nice reunion for him, being able to see his teammates from not very long ago. So an interesting experience. And then there was also history made in game 2 of the doubleheader on Monday, because if we're going to make history in one game, why not make history in both? So on Monday night in the second game of the doubleheader, Emma Tiedemann and Rylee became the first pair of women to call multiple innings of a Red Sox game. They are the broadcasters for the Portland Sea Dogs right now, and people were gathered in different places around the country to have watch parties to watch these two on the NESN broadcast for the Red Sox game on Monday night. And it was very exciting for them because they've been broadcasting at the minor league level and they have experience doing that in Portland, but they were able to step into the NESN booth on Monday night, look all around them, and just take in all of the excitement that surrounded them during the game. They made history, and it was cool for them to be able to be a part of that. It was Women in Equality Day, so it was basically a day to showcase women getting equal opportunities as men. And it was cool to get these two involved with the Red Sox broadcast. First of all, to hear some different voices in the booth and get their opinion on things going on with the team, and just be able to get their perspective on the farm system and what some of the players who are playing in AA can bring to the table when they get up to the majors. So that all was cool. But not only that, but it also just provided a great sense of people realizing that women can do what men do in a sports broadcasting space. And it's inspiring to women like me trying to continue to make it in the sports broadcasting field, to see them go and be able to do that and have that chance. And it allows me to tell myself that maybe I can have that same opportunity one day too. So it was a very cool moment for these two females and for the Red Sox organization. So to add to history that was already made in the first game, history was also made in the second game, and it was just a really interesting, historic day at Fenway. Not so great of a day for the Red Sox themselves, as they did lose both games. They lost 1-7-3, and the first one 4-1. So definitely not ideal. And it was also interesting because this was considered a relief appearance for Pivetta, his first relief appearance in a while, because Cutter Crawford had started the game originally back in June and pitched 1.1 innings before the game got suspended. So Pivetta, coming into the game on Monday, technically was taking over for Crawford, who had started the game. So he did go 6 innings and gave up 4 hits and 2 earned runs, did give up a homer in that time, but he struck out 10, and he was looking fantastic all the way up until that inning when he allowed a home run to George Springer, and his offense could not provide him any run support, which was very unfortunate. But people would have thought by just watching the game that he was the starter, but he was in fact not the starter, and Cutter Crawford had been. So lots of interesting scenarios. during this crazy eventful day in Boston, while the Red Sox were just desperate to win games and they just couldn't win either one. And in an attempt to try to change the narrative a little bit and start to win some games and hopefully provide a spark, they did do some roster reshuffling before both games. So coming up, I'm going to be going over what those moves were and why the change could have been necessary. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. I know we all hate the blackout restrictions with these NFL games, and we can't always watch all the games we want to watch. So if you want to have that chance, look no further than FanDuel. Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. Host Paul Sullivan, aka Sully, is here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB. Available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Sully's show is definitely the place for you if you want to find out more about what's going on around the league. So I highly recommend you checking out his show. The Boston Red Sox are coming off of a very interesting and bittersweet day in Boston because they had some cool things happening in terms of people being able to make history for them on that day. But the Red Sox as a team certainly did not make history in their performances in the doubleheader on Monday, as they could not capitalize on opportunities, could not provide run support. And even when they did provide a little bit of run support, they also just played sloppy baseball. They made 4 errors in game 2. 4. That is a major, major problem. And they just looked super out of it the whole time. And they did do some roster reshuffling throughout the course of the day. So before the first game, they DFA'd Joely Rodriguez and selected Brad Keller from AAA Worcester. Joely has been DFA'd by the Red Sox before, so we'll see what happens here. Somebody can pick him up if they so choose to, but if they don't, then he'll remain in the Red Sox system and go to AAA after he clears waivers. So the Red Sox obviously wanted to bring him back up temporarily just to see how he would perform. He wasn't meeting expectations for what the Red Sox bullpen needs to be able to do moving forward. So they were like, let's try out Brad Keller again. Now, in these 2 games, the Red Sox for sure were trying to conserve pitching and have the right combination of guys out there so that people don't get exhausted and overly tired, because we saw that happen last year and it wasn't pretty later on in the season. But they did option Brad Keller and he pitched in the second game, the nightcap. 4 innings, giving up 7 hits and 3 earned runs with 2 walks and 2 strikeouts. He did not have it. The defense behind him certainly did not help his cause either, but he's at a 5.44 ERA on the season with an 0-4 record for this Red Sox team. So I have not been at all impressed by what I've seen from Keller so far this year. And it's really unfortunate because the Red Sox are in a situation now where they're kind of stuck. They either keep running it back with what they have and maybe expect rough results at that point if they keep running it back, or they keep reshuffling guys and send guys down to Worcester and call other guys up and hope that it can maybe change up a little bit of the overall attitude that this team has. Because right now they've got to be super frustrated. They're moving further out of the wild card standings as they are currently 5 games back. And it's got to be very frustrating for them to feel like nothing's going right for them. So for Craig Breslow, it might be at the point where he says, okay, well, I know this guy has struggled for us before, but let's try to bring him back up because maybe he can spice up a little bit of this roster and we're not seeing the same thing over and over again. So that would be my guess as to a lot of what went into that decision to DFA Joely and call up Brad Keller, because they said, let's give him a shot. He might be in good shape to be able to provide value for us, and that certainly was not the case. And after the second game, the Red Sox reactivated Justin Slaten, which is very exciting. He had been hurt for a while and was a key reliever for this Red Sox team. As a result, Josh Winkowski was optioned to Worcester. He struggled in the first game for the Red Sox, and he just has not had it as of late. He's been a little bit all over the place. So I'm not very surprised that they sent him down. I thought Luis Garcia being DFA'd was a possibility because he has not pitched well either. He pitched 0.2 innings, giving up 2 hits and 1 earned run in the first game of the doubleheader. And this is at the point now where I think the Red Sox are doing everything they can to hold on to Garcia and just give him the opportunity to get back on track, because ultimately they did give up a handful of prospects for him, for people, and that's going to be a bad look on him moving forward in the Red Sox organization. If they said, we believe in this guy, we're going to give up a few prospects for him, and then he comes out there and just doesn't perform. And so far, that's been the case, is that Garcia just has not lived up to the expectation that I'm sure Craig Breslow had and the potential he saw in him when he traded for him. So now we're looking at a scenario where the Red Sox either keep him there and accept that he just might not pitch well, and he might be one of the clearly weakest links in this bullpen, or they DFA him and they risk the backlash they're going to get from people of, oh, you gave up too much for this guy and now he's not even on the team anymore. So there's pros and cons to both of those options. So I was a little bit surprised he wasn't the corresponding move initially, but at the same time, it does make sense because the Red Sox feel like they need to keep him up in the majors, or else it's just going to look like a really bad trade. They also were able to have a 27th man in the game. So Biley Horn was called up as well to the Red Sox, and he did make an appearance in game 2.1 innings, giving up 0 runs. He's at a 6.35 ERA. That man has been struggling a lot and has been pretty painful overall to watch, but did not pitch poorly at all in the second game of the doubleheader. I don't have high hopes for him. I don't think he'll be up very much longer. It's just because they had the ability to have the 27th man. And with the state that this bullpen is in right now, it's definitely never a bad thing to have extra arms. So I'm sure from the standpoint of making sure that they have guys who are able to come in and step up and just help relieve some of the regulars of their workload, that's definitely a possibility the Red Sox need to consider. So I don't really trust him, but having Justin Slaten back is great. He did pitch in the night game, just 1 inning, and gave up 0 earned runs with 1 strikeout. He's at a 3.30 ERA on the season now. And I definitely missed Justin Slaten's ability to be able to be out there in high leverage situations and get out of the inning. And that's what's lacking a lot right now with this Red Sox team, is they don't really have enough high leverage guys who can go out there and be lights out when they need to be. But Justin Slaten was always somebody that the Red Sox could kind of rely on. From that regard, they could bring him in with the bases jammed and they could trust him. They could bring him in when they're down by a run or up by a run, and they could trust him to keep that lead or make sure they only stay 1 run behind. So there were a lot of things about Justin Slaten that were reliable and that the Red Sox really liked. So his return could not have come any sooner. Unfortunately, it might be too little too late because of the fact that the Red Sox are slipping away from playoff contention. But if you want something to be hopeful of, having him back is certainly something that can do that for you. He's been on the IL since July 9th with right elbow inflammation, so he's been removed for a while. And prior to that, he had been one of Boston's best relievers as a Rule 5 pick. He's posted a 3.30 ERA and 45 strikeouts in 42.2 innings. And his return should definitely provide a massive boost to a bullpen that really has just struggled significantly in his absence because they don't really have other guys who can fill his shoes at the moment. So hopefully things can turn around with this bullpen. Now Wowski getting sent down, 4.37 ERA and 59.2 innings over 30 appearances for Boston this season. And although he threw a scoreless ninth inning in game one of the doubleheader, you can tell he didn't really have it all together and he was struggling with his command. So I'm hoping that him being down in AAA where there's less pressure, he could kind of clean up some things and be able to give the Red Sox exactly what they need moving forward from him. But yeah, a little bit of roster reshuffling going on there. And the Red Sox look to just salvage the rest of this series. Now they're at the point where they have to win every game in this series moving forward and basically the majority of their games beyond that if they want any sort of chance at making the playoffs, which at this point is looking less and less likely. But what exactly is going wrong for the Red Sox right now? I'm going to answer that question next. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free TradeMaster program. Every TradeMaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/T-M and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. It's definitely never a bad thing to be overly stocked up on electrical supplies because you never know what's going to go wrong in your house. So make sure Supply House is your friend. The Boston Red Sox are definitely not my friend right now. They certainly are not looking out for my well-being here and my feelings as a diehard fan who dedicates so much of my time to this team, as they have been deciding lately to just not play good baseball. And the easiest thing to do here would be to just blame Alex Cora and say, well, this is the third year in a row that the Red Sox have had a post-All-Star break collapse. Well, in that regard is correct. On the other side of that, the Red Sox being in a playoff spot and in playoff contention for the majority of this season, despite all the injuries that they've had, has a lot to do with Alex Cora and his ability to manage this team and be a player's coach. There's a lot more than the on-field stuff that you have to look at with a manager, and his ability to connect with these guys off the field is a big factor there. So I really have enjoyed having Cora as our manager. I'm happy he signed an extension because I think Red Sox fans would be in for a rude awakening if he wasn't here. The real people we should be placing blame on are John Henry and Sam Kennedy, guys who have indicated that they care about this team and they want to spend money. They want to put the Red Sox in a position to be able to be a World Series contending team, but yet they haven't really executed on that, and they haven't really allowed Craig Breslow to fully go out and be aggressive and acquire the expensive, high-caliber players to put on this team in a Red Sox uniform. So that's who we really should be blaming for this whole thing. And I think when it comes to this collapse in the second half, the first half Red Sox were clicking on all cylinders. And when they were at a point in the season where their starting rotation was among the best in baseball, the bullpen was clicking and the offense was hitting because that's just always what they've done. That version of the Red Sox could have competed with anybody. That team right there was just having everything go their way, and they were making sure that they were putting 100% into it every single time to show that they deserve to be there and that they want to win. Now you go to the second half Red Sox since the All-Star break. And a lot of times just things have not been going their way. Even if the offense is putting up a lot of runs, the bullpen blows it, or the offense can't score, or the defensive miscues cost the Red Sox, like they did in game 2 of the doubleheader against Toronto when they made 4 errors. Rafael Devers made a couple mistakes. David Hamilton. There was a flip from Tristan Casas to Chris Martin at first base on a ground ball to try to record the out, and that was not executed the right way. And so when you give guys extra bases and free outs, you're going to expect that they're going to capitalize. And sure enough, that's exactly what the Blue Jays did, as they did win that game 7-3. The defensive miscues have been a big problem all season long for this Red Sox team, not being able to field basic plays and make the most basic plays. I mean, Rob Refsnyder in the outfield too missed a ball he should have caught, and it was a pretty routine fly ball, and it touched his glove but then bounced off onto the grass. So I feel like he misjudged it. But when you are a Major League Baseball player, that is the type of play you have to make. And it's little things like this that the Red Sox have been doing that gets me so frustrated and makes me lose faith in this team, because they, again, are continuing to just nip themselves in the butt and just continue to ruin opportunities that they have to win games and put themselves closer in the wild card standings. And with each day that passes here, if the Red Sox lose, the more people are going to start to be like, this team is not making the playoffs. And I am known to be positive. I like to think that it's not over until it's over, which it's really not. I mean, they could go on a big win streak, and the Royals or Twins could go on a big losing streak. You never know. Baseball is crazy, and crazier things have happened. But a lot of things need to go the Red Sox way in order for that to happen. And that starts with them having to play completely clean baseball for the rest of the season and be able to field basic ground balls or basic fly balls and be able to cash in and drive in runs when they need to, and be able to pitch effectively as a pitching unit. And since the trade deadline has now passed, there's nothing Breslow can really do about this pitching staff fully until the offseason, when he can then start to make more moves. But for right now, I would expect to see some more roster reshuffling between AAA and the majors, at least for the rest of this season, so the Red Sox can try to tread water and get themselves into a playoff spot again. I think they're just trying to see what might work, and they're trying to just get different guys out there on the mound to see if it creates some sort of spark for this team to help them play better. But certainly having Slaten back will help. And Liam Hendriks is nearing his return for this Red Sox team too. And once he comes back, he'll likely be able to be a huge contributor out of this pen. So there are silver linings. Also, the future of the Boston Red Sox is very bright between Wilyer Abreu, Cedar Rafaela, Jarren Duran, Tristan Casas, and even Rafael Devers, who is still young. These are all guys who are going to be part of the Red Sox core moving forward. And not to mention that then you have this generational talent in the system between Marcelo Meyer, Kyle Teal, Roman Anthony, and Christian Campbell, all guys who have a ton of potential to contribute at the major league level. The only thing I do worry about with Marcelo Meyer is his injury history and ability to stay on the field. Is he somebody we can count on to be able to be out there every day as a regular position player? That's something I'm keeping an eye on with Meyer. If the Red Sox start to get a little worried about his health and feel like he might not be able to stay healthy for the whole season, then I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe look into a trade partner for him where they can get some really good pitching out of the deal. And another organization that wants to take a flyer on Meyer would pull the trigger on that trade. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just saying I could see the justification that the Red Sox would make if they were to move him. And I would say the injuries are that reason. So lots of exciting things when it comes to the future of the Boston Red Sox. But when it comes to right now in 2024, if they're making 4 errors in a game, they are not winning that game. If they are stranding the bases loaded, they are not winning a game. If Wilyer Abreu gets ejected partway through the game for arguing balls and strike calls with the ump, who's one of the biggest, most key hitters on the Red Sox team right now, then that's going to be hard to win that game too. So Abreu needs to keep himself calm and collected. I know he was frustrated with the call, the strike 3 call, which, by the way, was a really good pitch, hit the top right corner. So it was a strike, but from a hitter's perspective, it might have looked like it was outside and high. So I do get where he was coming from, but the ejection happened super quick. He didn't really say much. They just ejected him immediately. So then Alex Cora came out and expressed his frustration in the ejection, but that's a lot to take in. And for somebody like Abreu, who's still young and is still learning the ropes here, he needs to act more professional than that on the field, regardless of how frustrated he is, especially because he is one of the Red Sox most important bats. And so for him not being able to contribute to that was, I'm sure, something that bothered him. So not a good situation for the Boston Red Sox. Lots of things that simply just did not go their way on Monday. And it's getting harder and harder to feel like this team has a legitimate shot to make the postseason because they just keep slipping back, and they need to win the majority of their games moving forward. I don't know how often I've said this on the show, but I am serious. They cannot afford to lose a single series anymore. They are running out of time. This season is going to be concluded soon in the next month or so here. So they have no excuse anymore. Got to win games, got to win series, and absolutely cannot have all of those defensive blunders. They literally looked out of it for the entirety of game 2 of the doubleheader. Just didn't look interested, didn't look like they wanted to be there, weren't capitalizing at all on offensive opportunities, and it seemed like they were just going through the motions to me. And if they're just going to go through the motions, then why would they even be out there, and why would people want to spend their time watching them? I wouldn't blame anybody who says this team isn't giving 100% effort, so I'm not going to watch. So they have to continue to play the way that they did earlier on, as frustrating as it is. Show some fight, show some fire, show that you want to win and you want to make the postseason, because if they don't care and they don't want to make the postseason, then everybody's going to lose interest. So the players have to stay focused, have to clean up the defensive miscues, and hopefully they'll be back on track much sooner rather than later. As always, though, keep the faith. Go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.